Hi, this is Andy Hickman. This is an overview for those of you that might have missed the recent presentation that we did at Badin High School, or for those of you that just needed a refresher. Now, we gave an hour-long presentation at Badin and had some Q&A, a lot of things going on, a lot of information exchanged. But what I want you to know is this is going to be simply an overview, so it's not going to take anywhere near an hour to do. I'm going to speak very quickly on a lot of the things that are presented. If you do have questions, I'd invite you to get a hold of us. You can always reach out to us by phone, 554-0401. That's area code 513. And info at Online College Planning. Just send us an email, and we'll be happy to help. So anyway, the presentation was about the FAFSA for this year, 2020 and 2021. Those are for students going off to college next year. And before we did that, we talked about the 7 keys to successful college funding and college selection. The reason that is so important prior to the FAFSA is you don't want to fall victim to simply filling out the form without being educated on what the form is intended to do and some of the facts, statistics, and other key criteria and elements that you should be aware of that will ultimately save you a lot of time, eliminate a lot of frustration, and save you money. Listed on the outside edge of that screen, you can see that we've got listed the elements that we consider to be very vital. Starting at the bottom, baseline COA, graduation rate, EFC and optimized EFC, gift versus self-help, this is financial aid, and graduation assurance, major determination, and then finally, career direction. So as we proceed through the presentation, again, it's an emotional time. We all know that our kids were really young. They grew up really fast, and here we are on the cusp of some major decisions. And those decisions include what school should they go to? Will they graduate in 4 years? Will they find a job? There's a lot of questions that are entering your mind and probably causing you to lose some sleep at night. And if they aren't causing you to lose sleep at night, perhaps it's because you don't know everything you should know. Once we begin to uncover some of the realities of college planning, then it becomes a little more daunting in terms of the task that's ahead of you if you should decide to do it entirely on your own. The biggest mistake that I think parents make is just sticking their head in the ground and saying, well, it worked out for everybody else, so it'll probably work out for us. Your objectives should be the following: the right fit college, graduation for your son or daughter on time and within budget. And ultimately, you don't send them off to college just to graduate. You send them off to college to make sure that they can pursue the career of their dreams. Now, the problem with college is that most families will overpay. The reason they do that, they overvalue sticker price. We're going to show you a very common example about a school that people think is really expensive versus a school that people think is really inexpensive, and really show you how it works, and we might change your thinking. But they tend to underestimate financial aid potential. A lot of families will say simply, I'm not going to qualify for financial aid, so why even pursue it? That can be a real big mistake. And then they ignore some critical factors like graduation rate, the statistical realities of college, and they simply don't know things like cost of attendance, expected family contribution, award history, scholarship eligibility, and other facts and statistics relative to the colleges that they're looking at. Here's where, again, there's a real problem. They're going to assume that their son or daughter is going to graduate in 4 years. Statistics tell us that only about 30 to 38% of students will graduate in 4 years. The average is, believe it or not, over 5 years, and at some schools it can eclipse 6. Again, just sticking your head in the sand and saying, well, everybody else did it, I guess it'll just work out. That will put you in the poorhouse. And then loan availability. Yeah, there's a lot of loan types out there. There's student loans, Stafford loans, direct loans, parent loans, private loans, equity loans. I mean, the list is long and likely undistinguished. But what we want to make sure that you understand is that the opportunities may exist, but it's up to you to figure out which loan type is right for you and your situation. And, of course, everybody thinks their student is above average. So, I'll leave that at that. But if you're not going to be that person that overpays for college, if you're not going to be the person who winds up with a ton of debt or their student winds up with a ton of debt, you really have to know what to do, when to do it, and how to get it all done, and understand the costs of not doing those things. So today we're going to identify the 7 keys, and I will share a little bit of insight with you even on this presentation here, as we did hopefully during the presentation. You caught some of these stories that we told because they're very real stories, very real people. The one common thing that we typically hear is, I wish I would have started sooner. If that's you, don't fear. Wherever you are in the process, getting started now is going to be critical. The next thing is, I don't want you to assume anything. You have to know the facts. And then here, this is really key. College is set up so that there is an annualized cost to go to college, right? Everybody knows there's tuition. That's on a semester basis. But if we're just looking at 1 year's worth of college, that doesn't give us the whole picture. What I'm here to tell you is that the really wise families will say, okay, here's the cost of college. The cost of college is all the students in the family, all the years that they're going to pursue college, and it's far more than just tuition. So you have to have a focus on forecasting the entire cost and aggregate all years, all students in the family. Problems and opportunities that exist, and I'm just going to share a few of these. If any of these impact you, kind of pay close attention. If you have questions, feel free to ask us. But divorce, separation, and extended families typically introduce elements of opportunity or oversight if you're unaware of how things should really work. Also, for the 2020-2021 school year, they're going to be looking back at 2018 income. Now, if 2018 wasn't representative of you or something happened in 2018, like you sold a house or perhaps there was a divorce in 2018, there was a new job, there was a layoff, who knows what, maybe it was a banner year for sales and your commissions. But if 2018 wasn't representative, that too is a situation that can be addressed, but you have to know how to go about doing that. And then the value of knowing what others pay. You know, we liken it to buying a car. If you were to go out and buy a car, one of the first things a lot of people do is go out to applications and systems like TrueCar to find out what did everybody else pay for this particular car. And that gives you a good sense of if you're overpaying or if there's potential discounts and so forth. There's really not something that exists like that on a broad scale for families looking at college. You're not going to know what the next guy paid for college. Did they get scholarships? Did they get a tuition discount? What happened to their out-of-pocket expense relative to mine? Now, we've got access to some of that information, and we'd love to be able to share it with you, and we make some of those things available to you. But I just want you to know that that type of information is some of the things that a good college planner should be able to present to you. And then the timing of college. Look, if you've got twins or there's retirement on the horizon, if your student is considering a gap year, there's things that you need to understand that can actually reduce your out-of-pocket expense if those events are part of what you have going on, or if there's another, what I'll call abnormal condition that might impact your family and your out-of-pocket expense. And then again, assumptions are all about missed opportunity. So let's take a look at a typical family. Now, this is not to suggest that this is your income, these are your assets, but it gives you a good baseline of understanding how financial aid works, how the comparative analysis of one school versus another should work. In this particular situation, we've got a family with a total family income of $156,000. It's mom and dad. We've got assets. We've got some equity in the house. We've got 5 people in the household. 2 are going to be going off to college. We've got some student income and assets. All right. They're looking at 2 different colleges where their EFC, expected family contribution, how much based on their family dynamic and the economies of their family, they'll be expected to pay $21,106. That EFC is what the federal government says that this family should be able to afford on an annual basis for the minimum that they'll pay for a college. Now, they're comparing Kenyon College, in Ohio, private college, and Bowling Green, a state university. Now, right out of the gate, you see that Kenyon has a $69,000 cost, and Bowling Green has a $24,000 cost. Now, first thing you should know is that $69,000 is not just tuition. It's tuition, room and board, books, tuition, room, board, books, fees, transportation, everything, all right? Now, what does a typical family do when they see $69,000 a year? They say, shoot, there's no way we're going to possibly consider Kenyon. It's just too daggone expensive, unless money means nothing or unless you're blessed to have the income and wherewithal to be able to pay for that. But here's where it gets really interesting. Is Bowling Green really more affordable? Now, this is not an indictment on Kenyon or Bowling Green. Please keep that in mind. I'm just simply trying to show you how the process works. So here we have what we call the sticker price, $69,000 and $24,589. The family has a financial or an EFC, expected family contribution, of $21,000. Keep that in the back of your mind. Because of that, the financial aid that they're eligible to receive at Kenyon is $48,000. At Bowling Green, it's $23,000. The difference between their EFC and the cost. Okay, merit aid at Bowling Green should represent about $5,100 a year, and over here it's about $16,799. Now these are based on our analysis of these 2 schools and their history. Now here's where it gets really interesting too. how soon a student graduates from college impacts the total out-of-pocket expense. If they go 5 years, it's going to cost more than just paying for 4 years. The average at Kenyon is 4 years. 89% graduate in 4 years. At Bowling Green, 34% graduate in 4 years. And it's not until we get to the 5th year that we see that at least 50% of the students that came in as freshmen have now graduated. So the bottom line is, is it really expensive or not? If we take into consideration merit aid and awards and everything that we have to take into consideration, we can see that the freshman year cost for this particular family is $20,000 here, $21,000 over here, and then if we extend that to graduation, $116 versus $88. Now, had you known those facts when you saw $69,000 and $24,000 initially, would that have changed your thinking? For most families, it certainly does. So here's some questions to ask yourself. These are rhetorical, obviously, but do you understand that college is going to be expensive? Would you agree, true or false? Do you know exactly what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, and how to get everything done? Remember that arc of things that I said, these are all the elements that we're going to be talking about, those 7 critical things? Now, you can decide just to do 1 or 2 of them. I'm going to tell you that that maximizing savings opportunities will happen if you do all 7, all right? And if there was just one simple thing I could do that would reduce the total cost, I'd be all ears. I'd want to know, right? But there isn't just one thing. There's at least 7, and here they are. Again, I'm not going to go over all of them, but I want you to know they're all there. Now, what you're seeing in front of you right now are some spreadsheets, some flowcharts, some forms that are all federal or based on federal formulas that have something to do with financial aid, application to college, and all the things that you need to be an expert on if you're going to maximize maximize the efficiency with which you pay for college, reduce your out-of-pocket expense. There's a whole bunch here. I'm not going to tell you it's a simple process, but I think because of all those things you just saw on that screen, people kind of say, ugh, I'm not going to do all that, and it gets them into trouble. It gets them to a point where they wind up overpaying for college. So here's what we're going to do, and this is pretty unique, but I will tell you that if you take notes on this presentation, as we ask people to do in the live event at Badin, it's going to put you much further ahead. Just pay attention and write down some nuggets and then follow up on those nuggets, either with a phone call to us or do your own research on Google. You'll find that what we tell you is very true. And if you do have questions, just reach out. We don't have any problem at all answering a question or two here or there. So if you have those questions. Also, we're going to give you some free links. Links that will give you information, links that will give you reports, links that will give you 3 to 5 minute videos where you can educate yourself on some critical concepts of college. And here we are. We're going to give you an EFC and optimization report. We're going to give you a college planning starter course. So everything that's in those 7 elements here are things that we're going to try to help you with, at least on a free basis. And then we're going to show you a few other things that you have access to. They come at a cost, but I think you'll find that most people will see the benefit of the things that we can provide to you, which ultimately reduce your out-of-pocket expense. Now, baseline cost of attendance. Let's talk about that. Remember at the outset, you saw $69,000 over here, you saw $24,000 over here, and these are the elements. You've got tuition, room and board, books and fees, transportation, miscellaneous expenses. This is the sticker price. Do not be concerned about sticker price. It's the first thing that I tell my clients. Don't be concerned about sticker price until you understand financial aid eligibility, merit aid, gift aid, and the tuition discounts that are routinely part of the financial element of college, or should be if you're aware of them. Next thing you have to understand is graduation rates. If you go on to collegeboard.org, look up any particular college and investigate what their graduation rate is, chances are pretty good that when you see a graduation rate, it's going to be the 6-year graduation rate. When you go out and look at a college like Bowling Green or Kenyon and say, I want to know the graduation rate, Bowling Green will say 53%. Kenyon will say 91%. The reality is, unless you're prepared and want to pay 6 years of college, you need to find out what the 4-year graduation rate is. Now, the Department of Education tracks that for all accredited colleges. They should be able to tell you. If you're going on a college visit, for example, you ask the graduation rate, you don't want to know the 6-year graduation rate. You want to know the 4-year graduation rate. It becomes critical. Now, I'm not going to tell you that just because a school has a 34% graduation rate, it's a bad school. But if you're unaware that only 34% graduate, you're not going to be in a position to arm yourself against that outcome for your own student. So awareness is the key to success, and we want you to know those numbers and what the averages are. You have to know your expected family contribution. Look, in a moment we're going to be talking about the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. This is a form that every single family sending a son or daughter off to college should be filling out. Now, when you put in the information, the form itself is not difficult if you have a little bit of an understanding of what they're doing, but it's not difficult. There's a lot of help screens. It's a pretty decent form given the complexity of the formulas that are behind the scenes and operating. But here's the thing. You're going to fill out roughly the answers to 130 questions on the FAFSA. And unless you're aware prior to hitting that enter key what the outcome should be, how will you know whether it's right or wrong? How will you know whether it's optimized or not? If you just hit enter and up pops a number like $40,000 and it says, okay, based on what you told us, $40,000 is what you should pay for college. But you had no idea that $40,000 was right, wrong, or terribly off. If you did your homework ahead of time and said, oh, my FAFSA should be $23,700 and it comes out $40,000, ba-boom, you know something's wrong, right? So there's too many people out there that don't know ahead of time what their what their EFC should be, so they wind up accepting whatever comes out of the FAFSA. Believe it or not, I've talked to the FAFSA helpline and explained a particular situation, and I'll share this one with you a little bit later, but I shared a situation where we were anticipating about an $11,000 EFC, and FAFSA produced a number that was closer to $50,000. That was actually more than this individual made. So we knew it had to be wrong, and I called the helpline. I said, hey, okay, I'm sharing this situation now. I said, hey, we've got a situation here where the EFC is higher than the person's income. What happened? Oh, well, did you do the DRT? Now, these are other things that you don't understand yet. I understand that. The data retrieval tool, which is how the FAFSA gets your financial information from the IRS directly. And this family used the DRT. One of the reasons that we say don't do it is because you don't know what numbers they're porting over. But she did the DRT, numbers ported over, created a $50,000 EFC. I asked, what's wrong here? And they said, well, did you use the DRT? I said, yes, she used the DRT to complete her FAFSA. Oh, well, then it must be right. No, it's really not. Later on, we found out that it was including a retirement rollover that she did as income. Very wrong and a huge negative impact on her EFC. We wound up having to jump through a lot of hoops, but we did get that rectified, and the result was obviously some substantial annual savings and financial aid eligibility to the tune of about $28,000. Yeah, these are things that can happen. All right, so the optimized EFC, if you know, based on your family's financial and size and age and all that kind of stuff, what your EFC is, the next thing you need to know is what it could be. Because if an EFC can be reduced, that ultimately increases your financial aid eligibility. I've been doing this long enough to know that the opportunities are immense. I would venture to guess that because of recent changes in the FAFSA formula, more families than not could be eligible for greater financial aid eligibility if they simply knew how the formulas work. There's a thing called asset protection allowance. If you have more assets than the federal government says you should have when you're sending a kid off to college, you're going to overpay for college unless you shelter those assets. There's easy ways to shelter. There are inexpensive ways to shelter. You need to evaluate beforehand what the impact of that sheltering should be. But I'm going to tell you that more families than not are eligible for a greater amount of financial aid. They simply don't know how the formulas work, so they don't even pursue that additional financial aid eligibility. All right. On the left here, you see a couple of what look to be reports. They are reports. And we're going to this is the exact same report that we invite you to get for absolutely free. We're going to create reports for you. We'll pay for them. We want you to have them because we think the more educated that you are, the more valuable you'll see what we do. But here's where we get the $24,000 cost of attendance. It comes directly from the report. You type in Bowling Green, bam, it shows you what the cost of attendance is. Same thing for Kenyon College, all right? We know our EFC is $21,106. Another thing that we're going to calculate for you. We're going to give you some tools to be able to do that absolutely free. And then that tells us what our need eligibility is for each of these two schools. Need eligibility is just what the school can help you with if they choose to do that. So as I said before, there's 130 questions. You pump all the answers into the FAFSA, and out pops your 21,106. But see this thing right here? Does the family qualify for aid? Yes. Could the family qualify for additional aid? Woo, yes. That's where I said they have assets that eclipse the financial aid eligibility formulas for college, because not all assets are treated equally. If we could shelter some of those assets that are putting us into harm's way in terms of financial aid eligibility, we increase our financial need and we increase the amount of aid that we're eligible for. So this is $21,000 for this particular family. If we sheltered assets, it increases financial aid by a little over $3,000. You can see optimized EFC is 17. That reduced their EFC. That's reducing their expected family contribution. And now when we compare that EFC to the cost of attendance, we get a bigger number. That's the amount of need. All right. So again, cost of attendance $69,000. Optimized EFC. Now we have $51,000 of improved aid eligibility, and for this particular family, that's a 4-year savings of about $12,000. See, a very simple step, and for this particular family, that could save $12,000 just for one school. And to show you that this is real, I pulled this up from a couple of years ago. You see August 2017. Nicole had engaged with me. She had heard about what we do, and she's actually from New Jersey, and said, something's wrong here. I don't know what we're doing, but it was a situation of a complex family. There was a divorce, there was a remarriage, and some things going on, but they submitted the FAFSA, and it came back to somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think it was actually around $34,000. She recalled $33,000 to $30,000, but we did a few simple things, got the EFC down to $17,000. That's a difference of $15,000 or $62,000 over 4 years. $62,000 of financial aid eligibility. This was a private school that her daughter was going to, and Taylor, her daughter, wound up with just about all of the $62,000 in savings. Now, since then, they called me back this year. There's been some more developments, so we're going to go back to the drawing board and see how we can improve the situation from this point forward. Anyway, my point here is that unless you're aware of how financial aid eligibility is, you're probably going to miss some opportunities and wind up overpaying for something that's already very expensive, college. Now, there's gift aid and self-help aid, and that's one thing you have to be very aware of. Colleges will help you with some of your need. Sometimes the college will help you with 100% of your need. More often than not, it's a portion of your need. So what you need to understand is that when they say we're going to help you with whatever portion of your need there is, you need to understand, okay, but how are you helping me? Is it going to be with loans, or is it going to be with discounts and free money? Obviously, the free money is what you're looking for. So just to say I'm going to help you with 100% of your need, for some schools that could be, we're going to assign you a loan at an exorbitant interest rate, and you still have to figure out how you're going to pay for it. Because as you know, loans need to be repaid. So if we look at the need eligibility for Bowling Green and Kenyon in this particular example, and again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but the history of Bowling Green is they're going to help you with 81%. Kenyon's going to help you with 100% of your need. And the gift aid that they're going to give you over here is just a little under 50%. Gift aid over here is 86. That means 86% of your 100% of your need, they're going to help with gift aid. That's pretty substantial. That's 41,000 of that 48. Over here it's 1,600 of the 28. Obviously a lower number, but I say all money is good money, right? We don't care if it's a lower number or not. If it impacts you in a positive way, that's all good. But the self-help, this is the loan. So 54% of what you need help with, Bowling Green's just going to say, hey, you know what? Parent loan, student loan, direct loan, whatever it is, that's the route you're going to have to take. Over here it's 14%. Now, 14% is still a substantial number. You can see over here, 54% just is $1,800. Over here, you're going to have to pay $6,700 in loans. So it's still a big number, but unless you're doing the math on this, you really can't see your out-of-pocket expense, because when we do the full analysis, if we're going to Bowling Green for 5 years, 142 versus 111. Now, that's a $30,000 difference, and you're paying higher at what you previously thought was the lower-priced school because you were looking only at sticker price. All right. Now, if we optimize the EFC, it just gets a little better. We've got an additional, $10,000 of financial aid, on both sides of the equation. So again, this is not a matter of which school necessarily. Got a little bit stronger picture over here at the private school just because of, again, the way they help you with your need. If we improve the need situation, obviously if they help you with more of that need, you're going to have a higher bump over here than you will over here at the state school. just the way it works, all right? Again, this information is on the report that we're going to make available to you. You want to know the graduation rate. You want to know the need met. Higher is better. Gift aid, higher is better. And you want to know if your EFC could be improved. All of this stuff is on the report that we make free and available to you. You fill out a fact finder, you get this information. It's pretty amazing stuff. And I can tell you this report, Todd and I used to teach college planning to financial advisors. We still do. We do it all automatically now, but or on the web, I should say. But this single report right here is one of the most valuable tools that most advisors, most college planners will use in their practice, because it can show parents kind of the keys to the kingdom. How much money are you going to ultimately save? And also on this report, you name a school, it'll tell you which scholarships your son or daughter will or is almost close to qualifying for. That's great stuff, and it's all free. So here's what the report looks like. I think we've given you a copy at the presentation. Unfortunately, I can't do that when you're listening on YouTube here to the presentation, but the report is fairly comprehensive. It's could be anywhere between 2 and 8 pages, I think, depending on how many scholarships are listed, but it gives you just a whale of a lot of information. Again, we make that available free, and we'll show you how to do that. You have a link, or should have a link. If you have any questions about this, you can give us a call. We'll send you the link here. But from Badin, we created this just for Badin, and we give you a bunch of stuff here. You can see there's 6 different options you can take advantage of. But running your own report, this takes you out to our online college planning website, and it'll take you directly to the page where it says run your personalized report. You click on the button, and you just follow the directions. Hit enter, and you'll get a copy of the report. We also get a copy, and we'll evaluate it, see if there's anything that stands out to us. If there is, we'll send you a little note, and you can do with that report what you please. Bottom line is we want you to be informed. We think it'll create some questions for you, and you'll want to understand better. You'll give us a call, but we still make it available to you. You can see down here also 3-minute video course. We've created a course of a series of 3 to 5 minute videos. I think there's maybe 5 or 10 videos in this course. Free. Go educate yourself on some of this stuff. How to do a college visit, what EFC is, cost of attendance, all these things. 3 to 5 minutes. It'll make you a much better consumer of a very expensive product, that being a college education. We've got 10 ways to save $1,000. This is easy. Just click on this and you'll learn a bunch of neat stuff. Then we've got some services over here we provide. We'll talk about those in just a few minutes. But again, just everything on here is a huge cost-saving opportunity. If you want to try to write this down, you can, but just give us a call and we'll send you a link so you can just click on it. When you do that, ultimately, this kind of stuff is outdated now. We used to say you had to go to this page and click, and it was just kind of weird. When you let me go back here. When you go to this right here and click on it, you're going to see a screen that has another button. It says start your free report, and bam, up pops the data collection document. You can get through it really quickly. You might want to have some information handy, like your W-2s from 2018, just so we can calculate accurately what your EFC is. But based on the accuracy of the information you put in, the information coming out, in my opinion, is on par with, or even is a little more accurate than the FAFSA calculation, the FAFSA pre-calculation of what your EFC is. They do a FAFSA forecaster for you, and I think ours is actually more accurate. And again, we make it available to you for free. All right, so this is the type of data collection. This will pop up right on the screen, and you just type it in, some contact information, and then family size. At the very bottom, it says Create Report. You click on that. Fairly intuitive, and you'll get the email or the report emailed to you, a link to the report. Bam, click on it, and you'll be all set. I think it's you'll see it's pretty neat. The report, again, it's going to answer all these questions. Remember that arc that we had at the outset, showing you all the things you need to be aware of. This report is by and large going to give you insight into almost each and every one of those elements, including what I said was probably the single most important thing, and that's the optimization opportunity if it exists for you. It's either going to say yes, no, or needs more investigation. If it needs more investigation, give us a shout, and we'll try to walk you through that process. But the yes is a no-brainer. If it says yes, you've got a choice. Overpay for college or don't. And this is going to come down to your awareness of what does that yes mean. And we're not going to shelter. I mean, Todd and I are as transparent as the day is long. And if you've got a question, we're more than happy to answer it for you. Grants and scholarships, again, this is an overview of your gift aid versus self-help aid at the college that you put in. Again, this is all on the report. And I think you'll see that it's just tremendously valuable. Now, on graduation assurance, I ask a very simple question to anybody that I work with when it comes to college planning. Under what circumstance would you want your child to drop out of college? I know the answer to that question. If you're sending your kid off to college, you don't want them to drop out, right? But given the choice between dropping out and having your son or daughter take on a massive amount of debt, which one of those do you want? Dropping out, or, go ahead and do it, but you're going to have a bunch of debt. And generally, I know the answer to that one too. You don't want either one of those outcomes either. So how are you going to prevent that? Well, what I tell parents is that there's only 3 types of income to use when it comes to paying for college. There's past income, current income, and future income. And I've defined them there. But if 2 of those go away, current income and future income, you don't have a job anymore. You're not going to have a job in the future. If 2 out of the 3 ways to pay for college go away, do you have everything saved to pay for college? Or is college not going to happen? Your student will have to drop out. Or will they have to take on a mountain of debt? There's some very simple ways that you can solve that problem. I'm going to kind of tell you what those are right now. That is simply identifying how much is college going to cost. Remember when I said at the outset, aggregate, right? All years, all students. How much is this ultimately going to cost? And if anything happens to that individual in the family that's helping with their current income or future income, have we included this in a life insurance evaluation? And I'm not here to sell you life insurance. What I'm here to do is make sure that your plan is complete. Planning is only as good as the contingency plans that exist within that plan. If something should happen to your ability to pay for college, will your death benefit on your existing life insurance cover that? I just want to make sure that you've at least thought about that. If you have, great. Under the major determination, look, again, we're big advocates of reverse engineering. We think you get the biggest bang for your buck. If you reverse engineer, in other words, if we understand the inherent and natural abilities, wants, and desires of the student, can we back into what career types and career classifications make sense, which majors support those, which schools have those majors, and which of those schools are within our budget? Is that a good process? We think it is. So that reverse engineering process we think is really good. And then in terms of a career, we see a lot of students just struggle with, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Heck, we see a lot of adults who don't know that answer either. What we want to do is make sure that the student is aware of the tools that exist. And again, we have some on our website. If you go out to the links and so forth, you'll see those. But our mantra is, which do you want to pay attention to? The 4 or the 44? The 4 being the 4 years that your son or daughter is in college, or the 44 years, the number of years they're going to be pursuing their career. We tend to focus way too much on this and very little on this over here, and we just want to make sure that you're aware of the tools that exist to help you identify early on in the process the type of career or the career characteristics, not necessarily the career itself. I don't expect any 11th or 12th grader to know what they want to do for the rest of their life, but I do know that from a psychological and intelligence standpoint, we're pre-wired to in a particular direction by about junior year in high school, sophomore year in high school. And by pre-wired, I mean there are particular characteristics in which we thrive. And those characteristics can be translated into career characteristics, which can give us some insight into what majors to pursue. Okay, so FAFSA. Again, I'm going to try to make this brief. The FAFSA is a form that collects a whole bunch of data from you, and the output of the FAFSA is an EFC, Expected Family Contribution. That EFC will determine what your financial aid package is from each of the schools that your son or daughter is applying to. The thing that you need to know is that financial aid is, by and large, loans. First element of financial aid is mostly loans. Then we come to institutional grants, Pell Grants, federal tax benefits, private employer grants, yada, yada. But loans, federal loans, are the biggest element. Now, if we take this beyond federal loans and go to private loans and we go to family borrowing and things like that, the fact of the matter is the biggest element of paying for college is coming out of your pocket or somebody's pocket other than purely a discount or grants, all right? Just something I want you to know. The part of almost every single college plan, unless they're getting a full ride athletic scholarship and they're Division I playing for a huge program, chances are there's going to be some out-of-pocket expense, and some of that out-of-pocket expense is going to be loans. Now, here's some costly assumptions. Again, I'm not going to harp on these. There's a full explanation behind each one of these, but these are the types of things that get people into trouble when they say, I'm probably not going to qualify anyway. I'm here to tell you that most people will qualify, especially given the recent changes in the FAFSA formula. They have reduced dramatically the amount of financial or the amount of assets that a family can have that begin impacting their financial aid eligibility. Unless you're aware of that, you're putting yourself in a situation where you will definitely overpay for college. So I said there's 130 questions. This is what the website looks like. For the most part, if you've never completed one, you just click this little button that says Start Here. It gives you, remember I talked about the FAFSA forecaster earlier? You can click on this and fill out some information. I said ours. I'm fairly confident ours is a little bit better. This is a government website. It does a half-decent job, but I've seen a few holes in it that doesn't account for everything as ours does. And ours is actually quicker to fill out than this one, in my opinion. But I'll let you be the judge. If you want to use that one, that's fine. But you're going to use the Start Here button. If you have to fill out a FAFSA and then come back in a subsequent year, you'll go over here and say Returning User. And simply by entering information like your birth, or the student's birth date, and social, and things like that, they'll know who you are and they'll pull up the old one so you can start from a running situation, not just have to re-enter everything. The FAFSA language is basically from the perspective of the student, and for the most part, the federal government expects that students are the ones completing this, when in reality, I would say the majority of the time, it's a parent. So it doesn't matter which one of these you click, they just want to know, who's filling this thing out. Generally speaking, when I sit with a family and we do a FAFSA consultation, if you decide to take us up on that, you're going to be here in the office. We do a FAFSA consultation. We do it from the student's perspective. We click on Student. Then it goes on to ask some information about your FSA ID. Remember, the FSA ID is something you need to have prior to submitting your FAFSA. It's real easy to get. You can get it on the FAFSA website, but it's going to be your electronic signature for both the FAFSA and ultimately for any student loans that you may need to pursue as well. And I'm going to skip through a few of these. Like I said, there's a lot of help screens. Almost everything you see on the FAFSA, there's a corresponding help screen. Documents needed to complete the FAFSA. You're going to want to check on this if you decide to do it on your own. It's going to tell you what information at a minimum you're going to need. Now, I'm going to tell you out of experience, you may need more than this, and that's why they give you an opportunity to fill out the FAFSA, not submit it, put it on to a save mode, come back to it later when you get the documents, then reapply, and it's relatively straightforward and simple, but first time you do it, first couple times you do it. In fact, we've had clients that have just asked us to help them every single year their student is in college. We try to put you in a position of being able to do it by yourself confidently in the second, third, and fourth years, and for second, third, and fourth students. But again, it's entirely up to you. What we want you to know is that the first time is kind of critical. If you get it wrong the first time, it kind of sets the precedent, and everything after that needs to follow suit. If it doesn't, you're more than likely going to experience what's called an FAFSA audit, which happens about 30% of the time. All right, so a couple of things that you need to know is that there are two sections to the FAFSA. There's a series of forms, obviously, but there's a student section and a parent section. And you should train your eye on this up here, because when they ask questions down here, they don't say, is the student employed? They'll say, are you employed? And remember, it's from the perspective of the student. If the parent is filling it out and they answer yes to are you employed and how much do you make, and they fill out their income as opposed to the student's, then that can really skew your EFC to the negative, and you want to make sure, again, whose section you're on. If it's a student section, when they say your first name, they mean the student's first name, not the parent's. It sounds fundamental, sounds parochial, but you got to pay attention to what section you're in. Your email address, just a pointer. A lot of times we don't see the emails that go to the student. So if you want to make sure that you're seeing all the emails relevant to the FAFSA, you might want to put in a shared email, one that you and the student both have access to, your own, whatever you and the student agree to. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each one of these slides. If you were in the presentation, we did go through every single one, but the bottom line is every single element, you can see these question marks here. If you have a question, just click on that, and it will take you to a help screen and further explain what, for example, do you know the know the college's federal school code? If you click on this, it'll tell you what that federal code is, where you can find it, and all those kind of things. You list the schools. The thing that I want to tell you there is you can list 10 schools, and that'll give you an opportunity to see in the springtime of the student's senior year in high school the award letters that will come from all 10 of those schools. They don't have to have first applied for admissions to those schools. Federal government says that if you've submitted the FAFSA with these schools on it, the school is obliged to send you an award letter that says if you are accepted and if you have applied, this is the award letter that we're willing to give to you. As we go through, the very last thing that you're going to be doing is signing the FAFSA. And I will tell you that both the student and the parent need to sign the FAFSA. They'll be using their FSA ID and password to sign the FAFSA. This is that IRS link that I told you about earlier. Todd and I generally like to avoid the FAFSA DRT, data retrieval tool, simply because when information comes over from the DRT, under things like your income, your adjusted gross income, all you will see on the form is the words transferred from the IRS. You don't get to see the number. And just as what happened to my client that we talked about earlier, she did the DRT, she had no idea what was coming over. We couldn't see that the income that they were reporting was 3 times higher than what she actually earned. Okay? So if you do the DRT, just be very aware of the fact that unless you know what your EFC is ahead of time, you're not going to be able to see the detail that created those numbers, created the EFC, if you do the DRT. Now, if you have questions on that, again, just give us a call. I know some of the acronyms and some of the language that I'm using is completely foreign to you, kind of difficult to follow, but again, the purpose of this is just to provide you with an overview. All right. So as we head through here, we get to the very end of the FAFSA, and it says sign and submit. Both the parent and the student need to sign and submit the form because, again, we've submitted parent income information. And once you do that, it says you're ready to submit, you agree to a few things, and you hit the enter key. Now, when you hit the enter key, something is going to happen. The oxygen's probably going to leave the room for a moment because you're going to see your EFC pop up, but it's not going to be apparent to you that it's an EFC once you submit that FAFSA. You're going to see this little thing up here, DRN, data release number. That's just a way to track your EFC, your confirmation. I've never had a purpose to write this down, remember it, or anything else, but you can if you want to. It's probably not a bad practice. On the second screen, after you've submitted it and it says, congratulations, Bob Smith, or whatever, here's where you're going to see your EFC. Now, that doesn't look like a number, like a dollar amount, does it? 037057. That's actually $37,057. That's the EFC for your for a year in college for that student. Now, what is interesting on this screen, you can see up here it's circled. Does your brother or sister need to complete a FAFSA? This is your one and only chance at submitting a second FAFSA in this year for a sibling, which would have the benefit of porting over all of the common data from this FAFSA to the siblings FAFSA. If you don't do that, if you don't click on this up here, that was your only chance. Now you're going to have to recreate all the stuff that you entered on this FAFSA on the new one. Again, questions on that, you can give us a shout. All right. So assets that reduce your aid. Remember, I talked about your EFC and your optimized EFC. Here's assets that can reduce your financial aid. Stocks, certificates of deposit, stock options, trust accounts, student-owned assets, rental property, vacation home, minor accounts, checking, savings, cookie jar, grandparents' contributions, commodities. You get the idea. Even 529s. See, if you've got more than what the federal government says you can have before it starts negatively impacting your financial aid, then you're going to overpay for college. It's that simple. And that number has shrunk so dramatically over the years that that's what leads me to say that more often than not, families are going to be eligible for more financial aid than what the FAFSA says if they are unaware of how to achieve an EFC optimization. So, this part right here is something that we go through during the presentation. I'm going to fly through this, but generally speaking, parents are evaluating and students are evaluating multiple colleges simultaneously. This family has an EFC of $37,000, and they're looking at 4 different colleges. Now, you already saw early on that you shouldn't be frightened of this $79,000 number. And this $33,000 number in comparison to this $37,000, well, we know they're not going to get any financial aid at that school because their EFC is higher than their cost of attendance. Same with this one. So from these 2 schools, they're not getting anything in terms of help unless it's a merit-based scholarship. But we do an analysis, and we simply walk through all of the numbers. Now, I'm here to tell you that we have an automated report that will put or that make available to you 5 different schools in a head-to-head comparison specifically for you and your EFC, and include information about scholarship eligibility, merit-based aid, those types of things that really gives you tremendous insight and an ability to measure one school against the other in terms of what you should anticipate for your financial aid award. And let me go back right here. This is ultimately how it works out for this school. We said A, B, C, and D. These were actual schools, actual numbers for a family. And based on the cost of attendance and the family's financial aid eligibility, 1 year here is going to cost 30, 30 over here, 33 here, and 32 here. And remember, these are schools with, I think this one had what was it, the cost of attendance, do you remember? 79,000, I think, wasn't it? It's here, 79,000. And when we get all done with it, they're each about 33,000. So now what we want to do is make sure that we've looked at graduation rates, right? Remember, graduation rates? If we're going 4 years over here and 5 years over here or here, which one's less expensive? But this really puts into perspective this family's out-of-pocket expense for these schools. And I think without that information, we're inclined to make bad decisions. You've got to have this financial analysis on the front end. And I know, a lot of parents say, but my son or daughter's heart is set on going to this school or that school. Well, that's fine. But see, if we know this information down here, we can use it as leverage to potentially get a cost reduction at the school we really want to go to. It's not called negotiation. Please avoid that term at all costs. But it's an informed financial decision. If your out-of-pocket expense is going to be this much over here and this much over here, can you use that to your advantage? I will tell you in a lot of cases, yes. So this is one of those extraordinarily valuable reports. Now, this is where I said you have an income protection allowance. You also have an asset protection allowance. For a family of 4 with one student in college, the federal government says, you can live off of $29,000 a year. Anything above that, we're going to start assessing for your ability to pay for college. I know it sounds ludicrous, but this is where I said the formulas really don't favor the family. They favor the federal government. Here's where it gets really crazy. Look at this. The family, now this is assuming that the older parent in the family is 50 years old. If you've got a 50-year-old older parent in a family, and they're allowed to have $6,300 in assets, in assessable assets. Okay, $6,300. That's it. So if you've got more than that, you're going to overpay for college. You've got to get down to this number, or at least understand what getting down to this number means to you in terms of improved financial aid eligibility. Now, if you've got $300 million and you're trying to get down to $6,300, well, first and foremost, what impact is that going to have on your out-of-pocket expense? If it's nothing, then don't do it, right? And if the process of getting there is too expensive, don't do it. But this is, again, awareness, and we want to make sure that you're aware of how the formula works and what you can have. All right, so that head-to-head comparison, here we go. It's not 4 schools, it is 5. We do a head-to-head comparison. It's $299, and we couple that with a FAFSA completion and EFC optimization. That's a whole lot of stuff that saves you potentially a whole lot of money and time, and make sure that everything gets done the right way. Puts the information in your hands so you can make an educated financial decision. That's available right here. Again, we'll send you this link. If you don't have it, shoot us an email. All right, just wanted you to be aware of that 5-school comparison, and we've peeled this off for Badin. We have it as part of our package solutions. You can go out and look at our package solutions where we provide a whole bunch of services and reports and so forth, but we peeled this one off, coupled it with FAFSA because we see it as one of the most valuable things that you can do in terms of making an informed decision and making sure that you understand ahead of time what your EFC should be when you complete the FAFSA and what it could be, so you're actually optimizing. And again, getting the head-to-head school comparison. Let's see, anything else? The FAFSA ID, I said you have to have that in order to submit, and that's right on the fafsa.ed.gov site, so it makes it fairly intuitive to be able to get that. Let's see, anything else here? Next steps, do your homework. You want to know what your EFC is, your optimized EFC, cost of attendance, graduation rate, financial aid response, and so forth. And to get that done, here we go. If you just wanted us to do the FAFSA, Badin families only, $149 completion, but we gave you a coupon code. If you want to know what that coupon code is, give us a call. Tell us you're from Badin, and we'll tell you what it is. If you happen to know the name of the Badin dog, that's a coupon code, and it'll cut that price down pretty significantly. So if you're interested in that, either give us a shout or go out to the website or this link, and we'll get you set up. All right. Your next step, again, we give you some free things. 3 to 5 minute videos, click on those. This is the landing page that we created just for Badin families. 3 to 5 minute videos, run your own personalized report, really easy, extraordinarily valuable. There's a little sheet that we wrote, 10 ways to save thousands on college. I said thousands. It could save you tens of thousands. Literally, I mean, you just get it. It's a PDF, simple PDF. Just give us your email. We'll send it to you, and there you go. And then any questions, we handed out a card. Now, obviously, if you're listening to this on YouTube, you don't have the benefit of having this card. Just give us a call, and we're happy to help. 513-554-0401 or info@onlinecollegeplanning.com. You can send an email to us individually if you want, but the info will work just fine. This is Cumulus College Quest. That's a local company. Online College Planning. We own them all. So, but info at Online College Planning is generally the easiest way. That goes to both Todd and I, so we're a little bit more on top of it. With that, that's the presentation. If you have any questions at all, give us a shout. And if you want those links, please let us know. We'll send you the links. A lot of great things that we can do. Our purpose is to help you and predominantly help you save money and make sure you're doing the right things at the right time. You know how to get them done, and you have the tools available to get them all done. Thanks, everybody.